Good morning and welcome to the new edition of our daily political or economy session. And today we see that the Liberal government is winning laurels internationally, at least that is reported. And Prime Minister Trudeau was gracious enough to announce his self-professed role as a custodian of the world, a new colonialism, mental, intellectual, spiritual, or financial. I don't know in which way he is a custodian, but then let's have a look at our foreign policy. As we near the middle of the first term of Trudeau government, the question that faces us is, where is our foreign policy leading us? Why is it that there is a certain muddle? Okay, does it need to be reset or is it to be recycled? That's a major question. I recollect, and I possibly presume you also recollect, about a couple of months back, Foreign Minister Chrystia Freeland had delivered a parliamentary address which set her thinking on the world's place, Canada's place in this world. Her remarks were not unanticipated. I could well imagine that she's going to make such a statement. And they were well received. People welcomed it. It was a cakewalk through the doldrums of the summer. People were very happy. But did she not get away too lightly? Or were the Conservative and the NDP critics aware of what she is talking about? You see, unlike the popular perception of Canada's recovering, if not exactly resurgent global position, her declaration deserves a bit more critical scrutiny than it has been given till today. And today it's required because, as I said, the government is going to complete shortly the midterm. And this is a time either to reset the technology, our foreign policy, or to recycle it. The nature and provenance of our speech raises important questions both to the administrative process and the governance. Now, to begin with, what exactly is this relationship between a short take and a long take and comprehensive foreign policy, which might mirror in substantive detail and scope the defense and development reports released prior to the minister's speech? As a matter of fact, it was supposed to be a summary. And more than 2 months have passed. The complete document is still not released. Is it so because the summary was not exactly a document which can be quoted, which can be scrutinized because the plea can always be taken? Well, these things have been taken care in the main document, but where's the main document? Does it take more than 2 months to release the main document? As a matter of fact, summary and document are released together because summary is made after the main document is prepared. Here it looks the summary was prepared and the main document is yet to be prepared. I doubt such a paper exists. But okay, let's give them their due. At the best, is an open question. This document will have to be prepared internally, perhaps solely within the confine of the office of Freeland and without outside consultation. Now look, the Liberal Integrated International Policy Statement of 2005, if I compare her speech, her address to the Parliament to that Integrated International Policy Statement 2005, This pales in scope and sophistication. It's neither as widespread, it's neither comprehensive, nor is it sophisticated enough. Her action was, she has offered a very hawkish, defense-centric, and US-oriented appreciation of Canada's international perspective. It is full of disturbing echoes of the warrior nation. I could expect that sort of a warrior nation attitude from the conservative government, not from a liberal government. It is absolutely antithetical and opposed to the liberal policy. And then, when we see the implementation, we are shocked. When Freeland agreed that tanks be supplied to Saudi Arabia, there was a hue and cry, and said no. And now she says that they are worried because they are being used against the civilians. Now, no wonder that when she made a speech, it was well received in Washington as well as in NATO. But did it raise the Canadian status? Because the whole speech was in fact antithesis of whatever Trudeau has been preaching. This is possibly the first time that the foreign minister made a statement which was not in consonance with the normally accepted Canadian values. The piece is very strong, very commendable in its own way, on world order, rule of law, feminism, multilateralism, and for transformation of global operating equipment. She has paid lip service to building relations with the European Union and global issues agenda. But the whole speech was lacking in direction or detail. You say you want to build relations with EU. How? You say you want to have a communication on the global issues agenda. But the question is in the detail. The devil is always in the detail. Intentions by itself have no meaning in diplomacy. You know, it's all right for a minister or a foreign minister or a prime minister to make a statement. But when a policy statement is made, it has to be very clearly enunciated and take into view all aspects. Glaringly, no reference was made to the need of intensified international cooperation or collaboration. Absolutely no mention of imperatives of reconstructing Canadian diplomatic ecosystem. And both these are essentials and prerequisites to effective action on transformational and transnational problems. How can you have international relationship enhancement without diplomatic ecosystem? They are not something antithetical, they are juxtaposed. Freeland tried to establish some distance in dealing with what she said, the Donald. Very, very undiplomatic way of addressing POTUS. The Donald is not a way to address. If she is the President of the United States, that's okay. But the government has to do a fine job of that crucial relationship, and where Freeland has faltered, in one way, is going to be a problem in NAFTA, because she is also handling NAFTA. And she did not question the priority still accorded by Washington to terrorism, religious extremism, and political violence. Now, your foreign policy, the Canadian foreign policy, is independent. I do not deny. It should be independent. But should it be opposed to that of United States? You may not agree with some issues, but the major issues in which the whole world agrees and you are a part of the world and the social system, how can you go back? Religious extremism, political violence, terrorism, they are the main issues. And for Washington, they are the major issues. But the Canadian foreign policy is negating these three issues. And that's why I said there's a need to reset Canadian foreign policy. These issues cannot be ignored under no circumstance. At the best, they can be understood as symptoms of fundamental problems. These are again the symptom of fundamental problems, and those are underdevelopment, insecurity, inequality, and other defining elements of the underside of globalization. How can you have globalization if there is insecurity? How can you have effective globalization if there is inequality, underdevelopment, or similar issues? Now, what is more important is the text is notably mainly for what is missing. There's abject lack of commitment to reinvesting in diplomacy or diplomatic capacity. There was a Naylor report sometime back, and the whole policy does not show any recognition of Naylor report regarding international science policy. And today, when we talk of environment, when we talk of the climate change, when we talk of the huge increase in population and shortage of food and water, the absence of international science policy and silence on the major issues that imperil the existence of the planet and human survival, that is to say the least shocking, and that is unacceptable. The reference to the climate change about which Mr. Trudeau has been shouting at the top of his voice is but a tip of the iceberg, and the major issues that imperil the planet have been ignored. You remember in one of my comments, I had mentioned about the lack of progress in biodiversity. What we were supposed to achieve 10%, we have achieved only 1% in preserving our biodiversity. So diminishing biodiversity, management of the global commons, resource scarcity, drought and desertification, food and water insecurity, environmental collapse. These are the global challenges, and our foreign policies absolutely mute and dumb on these major issues. Why? I cannot find any excuse to justify this complex and sprawling agenda. And then, there are some issues on which the foreign policy should have focused, and they are absolutely not there. Justin Trudeau had said long back that we wish to have the Security Council seat this time. Now, the foreign policy should have been directed towards that, but the foreign policy is absolutely silent on that. The major issues that are missing are, they are absolutely missing. There is no mention of them. Zero, zilch. First, the UN Security Council election strategy is not there. Peacekeeping prospects are omitted. Attainment of SDGs, Sustainable Development Goals, goodbye. No mention at all. Asia-Pacific engagement. We have signed TPP, but the foreign policy doesn't mention anything about Asia-Pacific engagement. Science technology and science diplomacy is missing. Arctic sovereignty, the major issue where we are at loggerheads with Russia and Denmark, Iceland. We are absolutely quiet in our foreign policy. Indigenous contributions, which are extremely important, we are quiet about that. Investigation of the war crimes, especially with the Afghani detainees. Or are we going to pay $10 million to each sufferer? The foreign policy is absolutely quiet. I was expecting that the foreign policy would show a return to innovative Canadian leadership. And that is not there. This review of the foreign policy by Mr. Freeland is unbalanced, incomplete, and narrow gauge. It's very much like the minister's cheerleading for hard power and is disconnected from the global affairs and the bureaucratic process. If Canada is stepping up, then what exactly shall we be doing? Shall our foreign policy only be confined to conduct international beauty contests? What are the concrete objectives? What are the ideas for the new diplomatic initiative? Simply refraining and remaining quiet about the treating foreign policy as wedges to be inserted for a domestic political link is not enough. We need renewed popularity and a positive predisposition so that the ideas are translated into reality. In case Canada is backed to move convincingly beyond a repackaging job, then the international policy will need to have more coherence, more resources, and more content. And at present, I see absolutely no sign of the new content and more content. I see absolutely no sign of coherence, and I see no sign of increased resources. Is it not the time to push the reset button? If we don't reset the foreign policy today, tomorrow may be very late. The diplomatic world moves very fast. And once you slip or you are left behind, you may never be able to leapfrog to the front. Take care, Madam Freeland. Thank you.